Things First is sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolf. That is the Hall of Famer Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. Thought it was Tuesday all morning. It is, in fact, Wednesday. So we're closer to Friday. It's always great when it's later than what you thought it was. Hey, baseball lives to see another day as the World Series is headed to a Game 7. Guess when it's going to be played? Wednesday night.
Yep. Yes. Great. By the way, if you didn't stay up to watch the baseball game, final score not indicative of how close that baseball game was. That was a very fun game to watch.
True that. Hey, why are we hearing that the Nets are already worried about Kyrie Irving off the court? But we start this morning's show in the NFL. Guess who's worried about the first place finally clicking 4-3 Dallas Cowboys? Well, that would be the guy who owns the Dallas Cowboys. That would be Jerry Jones. 8 weeks into the regular season, with his team coming off a big win over division rival Philly, Jerry hinted that he's still disappointed in this team. He said, among other things, quote, "I had hoped we'd be better than this." See, have the Cowboys underachieved this season, or is there a specific unit on the team that has underachieved this season?
Well, I would just say that at the midway point, after they play the Giants on Monday night, they should win that game. It gets them to 5-3. In all reality, what did he think that they would be? Do you think they would be 7-1, 6-2? Realistically, you say, yeah, they should have been 6-2. So they were one game off of that. Yes, but style points. Are you satisfied with the offense? Are you satisfied with the injuries you sustained along the offensive line? And defensively, I think that's really the only part of the team, Nick, that Jerry might be talking about. But as far as Jason Garrett and the staff, that's the reason why it's hard to coach the Dallas Cowboys. Is because just on any given Monday or Tuesday, you're going to have the owner come out and say something, and then the coaches and the players are going to have to respond to that. So I would just say, if you look at the expectations this offseason on the Dallas Cowboys, the Cleveland Browns, like these were two of the 4 or 5 hottest teams that we were talking about. So I would be just a little disappointment, but that can all be corrected the second half of the season. Now, from a player standpoint, I thought their defensive line would be better. I thought their defense would be more dominant. I mean, they would have games where they would dominate, which they did 2018 season. So special little cases. Lawrence, the defensive end, he hadn't had the type of productivity that comes with the type of price tag. So with Jerry, yes, I could echo, yes, just a little disappointment, but he didn't have to say it because it doesn't help his team.
Well, he doesn't have to say a lot of the stuff he says, but this is, and I'll add another name that people aren't talking about that I think he's probably, maybe privately a little disappointed in. Byron Jones, after an all-pro season, a guy waiting a big contract. Not that he's played poorly or terribly, but he was last year one of the production-wise 5 best corners in football. He obviously has not been that this season. But to your point about what did he expect them to be, I listened to this entire interview. He alludes, listen, he expected them to beat the Jets. He flatly said, I thought we would beat the Jets. Like, so that's how 4-3 turns into 5-2. And when you get the benefit of your home game against New Orleans comes against Teddy Bridgewater, and you once again, for the second straight year, hold them under 14 points, maybe you think you can win that game as well, and that's how you get to 6-1. But the record notwithstanding, the reason I do think it's fair to say the Cowboys have underachieved so far this year is, at the midway point of the season, there are 3 teams in this conference everyone agrees are better than them. The Niners, the Packers, and the Saints. And there are 2 more teams that I think most people would say right now are better than them. The 6-2 Minnesota Vikings and the 6-2 Seattle Seahawks. And so if you're looking at the conference and you're like, okay, only 6 teams make it, we got 3 that are clearly in a tier above us. You got another 2 that record-wise and I think eye test-wise are playing better than us. Going into the year, was the expectation for the Cowboys to be the 6th best team in the conference? It was not. Now, does that mean that's how they will end the year? Of course not. Things could change to where they could move up those rankings. Could also change to where the only thing that actually matters, they could end up being the 2nd best team in their own division, which would mean they don't go to the playoffs this year, because I don't think the NFC East is going to be a wild card, or is going to have a wild card this season. But yeah, I think the Cowboys have moderately underachieved. Not the way the Cleveland Browns have massively underachieved. Not the way I think people would say the Baltimore Ravens have moderately overachieved. The Cowboys have underachieved. They should be 5-2. They could have been 6-1. 4-3 is a little disappointing for them.
Look, Jerry Jones, for as much as he talks, is for the most part strategic when he does talk. Who do you think the message was for? Who do you think he wanted to hear that message? Was it Jason Garrett? Was it the defense? Was it the quarterback? Who do you think he wanted most to hear that message?
I mean, I think that Jerry, he is very strategic in some of the things he does, but a lot of times, though, with Jerry, and the reason why a lot of people do like him and respect him, he'll just tell you the truth. And this is just the truth. And a lot of times, people, they don't want to hear the truth. But in Jerry, this team, as Nick pointed out, you're supposed to beat the Jets. And there's nothing wrong with him saying we should have beaten the Jets. I don't think in that particular message, the team knew they should have beaten the Jets. So in that particular message, sometimes he's not sending the message. He's just trying to be more direct and cultivate his relationships that he has in the media. But in that, Jerry's telling the truth. They should have beaten them. They would have had a chance to enter the midway point with one loss. And then you are one of those elite teams. But where they stand right now, they are putting themselves into jeopardy as far as how much of a margin do they have with that second half of that schedule is going to be very tough, too.
And not to belabor the point on the Jets, but that Jets loss feels worse and worse as time continues.
As we figure out exactly who the Jets are.
Right, because when you first see them, it's the first game with Darnold back, and the offense looks good in the first half. And then the next week, you see them, and they get annihilated by the Patriots. Okay, it's the Patriots. But then the next week, what do you think Jerry was doing this Sunday when the Cowboys were off? I mean, he was watching all the games. And he sees the Jets try to go toe-to-toe with the fighting Gardner Minshew's and get blown out the water in that game. And so it's like, are you kidding? Like, this Jets team has one win, and it came against us. So that, I think that twists the knife a little bit for him. You mentioned that he's very calculated with his words. I don't look at Jerry.
Not always with the words, but with his messaging
point. Sure. Listen, Tom Brady, everything he says, I think, is worth listening to because 85% of it is just coach speak, quarterback speak. Okay, he's just getting through it. And then occasionally he gives you actual information.
Yep.
But Tom Brady is also very judicious with when he speaks. He does the weekly paid interview. He does the Westwood One thing. We know who he's talking to and when. Jerry is talking so often at so many points of time. I do think it's stream of consciousness at times, where it's like, I don't think he's lying to anybody, but I also don't think this is a message to DeMarcus Lawrence. You got to play up to your contract, even if he does actually have to play up to his contract. I think it's, I'm disappointed. I thought we'd be better right now. I thought we'd beat the Jets. They stink, and that's where we are. And Jerry's also probably restless. His team didn't play this weekend.
Right.
Wanted to hang out with former President Bush and Ellen in his luxury box. He's got to get in the news.
Where do you want to see the Cowboys be in the final second half of the season now, if they are going to really make a serious push in the playoffs?
I don't think it's about record. I mean, of course, you want to be able to win your division because that's still going to be the only route to the playoff. But it's about style. What type of team are they going to be? Last year, even though they got off to the slow start, they created an identity at the end. We knew exactly what they were going to be. So is this offensive line, are they going to be dominant? Do they have to be able to rely on Dak to be able to throw the ball a little more? Does he have to be a dual threat once they get into the red zone? Will this defense finally have the type of pass rush combined with coverage that we saw last season? Those are the types of things. So winning their division, playing good football, but playing with an identity. As you enter into Thanksgiving, Christmas, identity, this is how we're going to win. And if we don't play this way, we are going to lose a number of football games coming down the stretch.
And I want to see how they play against the types of teams that if they make the playoffs, they would face. Because they have 4 wins this year against the Giants, against Washington, against Miami, and against Philly. And by the way, the reason Philly's not in that conversation is because Dallas beat them, so it's not totally fair to discount that. But after the Giants game, they get Minnesota. They play New England a few weeks later. Buffalo is a relevant team. They also have Chicago and the Rams. Teams that at least have a dominant unit, if not an overall really solid team. How do you look in those games? Because you can make the playoffs this year in the NFC East, given the Cowboys' schedule, just beating up on bad teams. That's not going to show me the Cowboys can take the step forward that they expected to take this season.
That's a good point. All right, we'll take a break. Coming up, can the Kansas City Chiefs afford another week without Patrick Patrick Mahomes. That's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on Sirius XM. That and baseball when we come back.